Okay, let's first do first Ramban. Plus says ve'ela mishpatim shetos lifneim. Says tam ve'ela mishpatim shetos lifneim ki ratzol la'agdim lehem ha'mishpatim. First one to explain the elaborate on the mishpatim ki kasher haya b'aseret hadibrot hadibur harishon b'yediat Hashem. First dibra was in Yiras Hashem and Yedias Hashem. Shani b'Israel v'Yizorah, that's lo yeh lecha. Chazav v'tziv es Moshe koi tamar b'nei Yisrael atem re'isem ki m'Hashemayim dibarti imachem. Shetaziram ata od shitnu libam ma shera'u v'yizaru b'mitzvot ha'elu shetzvitim. Give me Chumash Shmais for a moment, I'll explain this. You know the Chumash Shema, blue Chumash. You see it? To open the light, I think that would help. Like parallel to your, raise your right arm. Right, you got it. Okay, so we look at the Chumash at the end of Parshas Yisro. After Matan Torah, there's all of a sudden a shtickle chazorah from Maftir. You just witnessed Matan Torah. All of a sudden, he's reiterating and elaborating something about Avodah Zarah, which you really have to understand. What's the use of this chazorah? What's found here, which is not found before? Rashi deals with it. You can read it. Okay, Mizbach Hadamot HaSaliv Zvachtav V'Sechot Shlemecha Tzanchav Karecha V'Chamach Sh'as K'Shmi Yover Lech V'Afticha V'Im Mizbach Ha'Avanim TaSali Lo Yisivnei Ezen Gazit Ki Cha B'Chai Nafta Alea V'Tchalea V'Lo Talea B'Ma'alot HaMizbechi Shelo Tigoleh V'Scha Olav. What do we have here? We have here, you should not make Elahei Kesev Elahei Zav. You should make a Mizbech Adama. If you make a mizbech adam avanim, it should not be avanim which are processed, because you have to use metal to process them, and also make sure that there's no steps going up to the mizbeach. It should be a kevesh. They shouldn't have to spread your legs. It should be more tzniustic. That is, and then it says elamish ve'elamish patim shetasim lefneim. So ve'elu complies. It's a continuance of what it says before. Now, how is that a continuance of what's written before? So here the Ramban says, "Ki ratzal la'agdim lehem ha'mishpatim, ki kasher haya b'aseret hadibrot, hadibur harishon b'yediat Hashem, which is Anochi Hashem Elokecha, v'asheni b'Yisrael Avodah Zarah, which is lo yeh lecha lehim acherim. Chazar v'tzivat Moshe, he then repeated and again commanded Moshe, as they pointed out before in Shmos Chof Pasuk Yutes by Maftir, Titaziram ata oid shitnu them libam el mashra'u. Please look, atem yisem like look into what you saw here. Since you saw this, you should be very wary about the mitzvahs that I commanded you. Ki atem reitem. What does that mean? The pasuk atem reitem, that's keneged dibur anochi. What does that mean? Atem reitem ki mashmai dibat machem. That's keneged anochi. Kidu anochi v'lo yisasun ipli keneged lo yeh lecha. So what does that mean to say? Pasuk Rishon, it says, Atem ritem ki meshmai dibati imachem, that's Anochi Hashem Elokecha. How exactly? You saw. What did you see? Anochi is introducing himself. Anochi means you see me. I, the God you notice, am God, I am God. Ad kedei kach, that the Bahag holds it's not a mitzvah say. It's an introductory statement. The Rambam is mechadish, that although that's written b'lashon tzivui, it's called a mitzvah. Without going into the whys, that's a thing which has to be dealt with. You read the first Rambam Sefer HaMitzvahs, you'll see how he proves it. He only proves it because he's right, the Bahag. It doesn't say mitzvah there. It's a commandment. It's an introductory statement. I am God, thus listen. Okay? Implying that it's the basis of commandment. Now that you understand that I'm God, you will listen. You must listen. Okay? That's what the Bahag says. The Ramban elaborates on that in the first Asogah and Sefer HaMitzvahs. The Rambam proves this point because the Gemara says, the end of Makos, Gemara says, Tayi mitzvah is Nemel Moshe Sinai, and then it comes out at the end, he says, Anochi v'lo yeh lecha mipi hagvur shamanu. So we see him first that Anochi and lo yeh lecha are both mitzvahs. In that same Gemara says, Anochi v'lo yeh lecha mipi hagvur shamanu. equals it anoichi and lo yilcha, both mitzvahs, not just lo yilcha, which is written b'lashon tziva, even anoichi. What does the Bahag do with that? I'm not doing a shir and sefer mitzvahs at the moment, but I suggest you look it up. Okay, so that's what we know. So that's what he says. Atem re'isem is lashon tziva. You saw. I introduced myself, and that seems to be a mitzvah. Okay, so this is what the Ramban writes over here. He writes, Ki atem re'isem, that pasuk, atem re'isem, kimin hashemayin dibati mechem, that's keneged dibra anaychi. So now look into that carefully and do more thinking about it. Lo sasir iti elahei kesef, what's that keneged? What does the Ramban say? Keneged lo yilachah. Lahashlim inyan avodah zarah. How exactly does that make an hashlama? We'll talk about it. You can look it up, learn it. What exactly is added here, which is not found before? Read Rashi, read Ramban there. There's a lot to talk about. I don't want to deal with this today. Then he says, God Almighty, I tell to you, that's like, it's just like, okay, you said two of them, then you like slipped and went all the way to the bottom. It doesn't add up. How? If he really won't understand the laws of property, etc., see, you gain by learning Baba Kama a sense of what ownership means and limitations of what's called mine and yours. You learn Hilchos and Zik and you understand, excuse me, this is mine, the ox is mine, the fruit is yours, I pay. You understand? Certainly, it's a very clear understanding. What does ownership mean? Ownership could be a million things. Your understanding of ownership is based on what? Nothing more than the Choshen Mishpat, which puts the parameters of ownership. That's how you understand ownership. That your ideas of ownership are formed by the system, by law. If hypothetically there would be no Isha V'Sigso, or there would be no Chiva Mazikim, what would the word ownership mean? Me having a relationship, whatever that would mean. Like today, marital relationships today in the Western world, they include adultery. Right? Rav Bila Seitzel Baal doesn't exist in the Western world. This is a fact of a reality. Marriage lasts at the most 5 years. Let's call a spade, okay? All these norms and chazakas that's found in the Gemara do not exist in the normative Western world that we live in today. And if you don't know it, read newspaper. Okay, this is a Matthias. Okay, it is a rare bird. We are like Amishes. We live in a whole different world with another system society. When you go back to the real world, go to the workforce, you'll understand this in a much more vivid world. Oh, you'll see that soon, man. Go around campus. Like in Harvard, there's incest week in the first year of winter, for freshies. Try it, see what it's like. Okay, you understand? Incest Fest, it's called. It's part of your degree. You understand? And v'chulu. And I don't want to go into it. This is not time and place. But you live in another planet. Okay, this is another pashut. So I'm trying to understand. So he says, what does ownership mean? It's defined by the halachas. The halachas finally draw an idea. Now you know what ownership is. I also own a friend. Does that mean is that a monetary relationship? Kaniti chaver, kaniti isha, kaniti kelef, kaniti sus, kaniti abei dvarim. Kinyan simply means creating a relationship, acquiring. What did you acquire? An object or a relationship with an object? Taklumdus, okay? And relationship with, there are monetary relationships, there's fraternal relationships, there's marital relationships, there's multitude types of relationships. There's knel chaver, knel lecha isha, v'kaniti eved, v'kaniti sus v'agala. That's metaltalin, by the way. Or kaniti bai. There's a totally different thing. Each relationship is different. There's none of the other. The next time you see the word kinyan, it doesn't mean you own something. It means you own a relationship. It means nothing more than you have a relationship. That's what it means. You generated or created a relationship. That's all it really means. Okay? That's the common denominator in the word kinyan. So next time you say isha niknas, don't think, oh, you own her. That's shtiyot. You don't know. You're called a Baal, but to figure out what the word Baal means, that's another question. You know what the word Baal means. If you know the etymology, you'd understand it a little better. Figure it out, where the word Beis Ayin Lamed comes from. It doesn't come from the word owner. It comes from the word Baal. Okay, for you want to know, which is almost you're asking, so what does Baal Hasada mean? It's a borrowed term. Okay? The original Bulat Baal comes from what? The pasuk Bulat Baal comes from what? That's a verb and a noun, right? Bulat Baal, Ha-Bo'el Baal. And that's what the Baal there is, okay? So you already know that's a borrowed term afterwards used for relationships of some kind of sense of control of other people too. What exactly it means, I'm not doing Kedusha now, that's the first page to explain what that means. But that's food for thought. At the end of the day, all these things are different terms and are defined by the halachas, or by laws, or by norms, or by society. Each culture has its own way of defining things. But though they're universal terms which mean things totally different in each society. And in the system of law, it's defined by the law. Just like the word evidence or I know. The word I know, well, it depends what you're talking about. I know in law, well, if you only know it circumstantially and not corroborated, it's not called knowledge. If you know it through an Eid Echad and it's a moment, you don't know. Okay? So these are, once again, these are legal terms defined by the laws which govern them. Ultimately, therefore, he says very clearly, "Im lo yeda adam mishpat habayit or hasadeh v'shar mamon yachshov shu shelo." He will redefine ownership, like many people do. V'yechmadeo v'yikchil latzmo. He'll want it, he will take it. See, I'm not joking when I say, look at marriages today in the 21st century in the Western world. Excuse me, but affairs and adultery are more than common. They're quite normative. Okay, if you really want to know, okay, the chazakas, etc., don't normally exist in the postmodern world that we live in, except for in the enclaves of people who still live in the archaic morals of religion, which are very rare. Otherwise, I don't have any chazakas anymore. I have no reason to think there's chazakas. Why would people living totally immersed in the Western world, including its recreational culture, and that's a heavy including, all of a sudden be governed or limited by certain systems, which society doesn't even look at it anymore. It doesn't count, mean anything, you know. We're quite back to Fellini's Rome or to Egypt. No, ein bayis she'ein bo meis. There's a lot of b'chayros found in each house. Okay, it's a double pasha. I'm not talking about the Jewish world. I don't want to say anything bad about Jews, but I would imagine that includes all societies which totally subscribe and live by the norms of the recreational aspects of Western culture. That's a very big statement, the recreational. I didn't say about Western culture. The recreational aspects of Western culture. Well, brother dear, I'm not going to put, a nakuda and dot my I's and cross my T's on that. You figure out what it means. Okay? So things change. That's what he says. There'll be lach. If you don't know the halachas, there's going to be leisachmad. There'll be leisachmad. There's chamor, there's shor, and there's isha. It's very simple. Why are you not chaymed? Because it's not shaykh to you. Why is that shaykh to you? Because you have X amount of norms based from the of halacha. The Ibn Ezra writes before, how exactly do you expect me not to be chaymed? So he says it's very simple. He thinks, interesting enough, very nice, it's a very dated mashal, that the peasant does not dream about the princess, because it's outside of his reach, not shaykh to his galaxy. He thinks about the local girl that's milking the cow. That's more shaykh to his metzias. He's not thinking about the princess because she's totally out of his. It's not to talk about. Like one doesn't dream about things which don't exist, so to speak. Well, again, it's a very dated mashal because today with the information revolution, everybody thinks that everything's in this world. But once upon a time, when information was filtered down depending on society, yeah, it's not even shaykh to you. Okay, that's how it was. He says it's very simple. You look at Shulchan Aruch, and you say anything outside of the Shulchan Aruch, and that's shaykh to me. It's like, what are you doing? It's like impossible. I remember a famous story. Rav Moshe once was going in Beis Medrash, and all of a sudden he stopped. He couldn't go further. So they said to the Rashiva, why don't you move? There's a wall here. What wall? So don't you see someone's davening in my daldamas? Someone's davening, Shemon Esrei, in my daldamas. So there's a wall. There's a wall here. You can't go. That's called that the halacha became a norm. Okay, that's how we saw things. There's a wall. So that's what he says over here. That's what Evan Ezra says. If hypothetically the halacha becomes a wall, so this is like the princess and the pauper. I mean, the pauper that didn't work well. That one dafka is a shvacha marshal, but you know what I mean? The princess and the peasant, okay? Okay? That's the Evan Ezra's marshal. That's what the Ramban says. Ramban says, "Ve'ela mishpatim kineg leisach mekim lo yada adam mishpat habayit or hasadeh v'shar mamon yachshov shu shalo." It's a beautiful statement. He'll think, yeah, what does ownership mean? Yeah, this is also for me. He doesn't want. Who says das is a ma'akiv? You know, mechi teisi. Okay, is that possible? Yes. Look at the world today. V'yachmedeu v'yikchil latzmo. Lefichach amar tosim lifnehem mishpatim yesharim yanhigu otam beinehem. So what does that mean? Tosim lifnehem mishpatim yesharim yanhigu otam beinehem. So tosim lifnehem, you must put in front of the people. What does it mean to say? He says it means teach them or rule them with just laws that they should be between them. What does it mean, beinehem? That should be part of their perception of reality. This should be the way they live, okay? Once they know the way they live, mele, there'll be good things happening. So he says, v'lo yachmadu ma she'ena shalem min adin. V'chein amru b'medrash Rama kol haTorah kula tluya b'mishpat. Yes. In other words, if there'll be norms of society, so that means, now the question is, what's meant this kol haTorah kula? Because all what you call norms, all your values depend on what? On what the halach is. The Shulchan Aruch will define what your language. So this kol haTorah kula is totally b'mishpat. It doesn't just mean the mishpat of Bezdin specifically or Dinei Mamon specifically. Kol haTorah kula b'mishpat meant alles. And that's why he writes afterwards, that includes also Mishpatei Avodah Zarah and Kibud Av and Retzicha. He's going to read it in 2 lines. It means the law. The law will define what our terms are. What do these words mean to you? So the aleph base of understanding, using language as a Jew, is to understand what the word means in Bavli Yerushalmi, Sifrasi, ultimately Biz Rambam and Shulchan Aruch. Then you know what it means. I want. What does want mean? Okay? What does that mean? Shver vort. Okay, well, all these things have to be. If you live in a world of Shulchan Aruch, you will live in Gemara. These words all are loaded, and you don't use them freely, and you don't use them not accurately. And this is what this Ramban is saying: that only with knowing the Mishpat will you have accurate understandings, hagdoros of your language, and that's how you will live. I preach this quite often about Tosta, and das versteht in Ramban. L'chein nosen HaKadosh Baruch Hu dinim achar seres hadibros. V'chein yifaresh be'ela mishpatin ha-mishpat b'avodah zarah. It's fight weiter in the pasuk and also in Kibud Av weiter in the parsha. V'aretzicha v'aniyuv v'aniskorim b'seres hadibros. So what's he pointing out? He's pointing out that in ve'ela mishpatim, it goes, interesting enough, it goes the Yediyas Hashem, Avodah Zarah, goes down to Isachmod, which is the mumminess of your chaver. That's Eved Ivri, V'chulu, and Gneva. Then it goes back to Kibud Av and Retzicha and Niyuf. So there's a jump here. It's so interesting. The Seder of the Ramban is, I repeat, what's the order here? So he seems to be saying that Nakuda of Cheshem Mishpat is so important, that L'Isachmod is so important that it precedes the Archava of Kibud Av and Retzicha and Niyuf. Lama. What's the pshat in this Seder? What's the pshat in this Seder? So just to understand what this means, okay, I would just, again, what is it saying here? He's saying here that Be'ela Mishpatim is a continuance of Atem Re'isim, which is found in after in Yisrael. He's saying that Atem Re'isim is the beginning of, now that you saw Sinai, like think about it, learn more about it, flesh it out, and obviously it's your job to what exactly is fleshed out in these psukim at the end of Maftir and Israel. They all talk about it. You can go there. But then he adds, and why say the Mishpat, and that's connected with Sachmad. What about everything else until there? And then more than that, and then all of a sudden, what does he do? Then after, so he says this big spiel about that you won't have norms of ownership unless you understand the laws. So we're talking about ownership and laws, very nice. Very important. So this part of is very important. Then he goes right. He says, and also we're going to elaborate on Avodah Zorah and on Kibbutz Av and on Ritzicha and on Niyuf. Say, fine. What's the time of Shmir Shabbos? We don't need Chazor on that. L'shis Hashem Shav. We don't need Chazor on that. Hello, I'm not doing well. What's going if never Shem Achorai? What's a parsha like the Shabbos? That's not here. That's not this parsha anymore. We don't need a chazor on that. What's the pshat in the dafka? What is it? And what's tutzich though? What do we need a chazor on? What don't we need a chazor on? What does the Torah demand elaboration? What doesn't demand? What's happening here? That I have to understand. More so, and this is what has to be understood, is this jump, like a slide from Anoich v'Yucha b'Zlei Sachmoi to knowing then going back to the other things which are there. That also doesn't make too much sense. So first and foremost, I'd like to understand the Seder of the Dibros according to the Ramban. I won't answer everything, but we'll start with that. What's the Seder of the Dibros? So the Ramban writes in source Beis, we'll read a few Rambans to get an idea of the Seder of the Mikros. On the pasuk, Anochi Havai Elokecha Asher Tzisicha Me'etz Mitzrayim Beis Avodim L'Yuchel Himachem Al Dvor Ponai, which already there's two mitzvahs right there, okay? I mentioned that Friday night in the Machlek Sarishon. How many mitzvahs or how many tzivuyim are found in the Asher Dibros? I asked my grandchildren. Says Asher Lo Nachon. Now count it. Run between 14 and 15. Depends. People, the 10 commandments. That's not true. 15 commandments. 10 statements. Oh, that's something else. Dibros doesn't mean commandments. So the Decalogue it's once again some idiot didn't know what he was talking about, so he wrote it. King James version of the Bible. Who ever heard 10 commandments? Okay? But you grow up, you grow up with it, right? That's what you're pushing on. That's me. It's your language knows what you are. Tell me you didn't think the word 10 commandments until 5 minutes ago. Everyone did. It's the name of the movie. I mean, for goodness sakes. He didn't say the 15 commandments with what's his name? I forgot who the guy was. Cecil B. Mill, I think, was the producer. I forgot who was the player there. This is 1956. Okay? Vasidas. So he says, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Adibra Zeh Mitzvah Taseh. Ramban learns at the Rambam. Omar Anochi Havaya. Yoreh, he teaches, V'yitzaveh otam, and he's commanding them, Sheyedu, they should know, V'yaminu, they should believe, Ki yesh Yudke Vavke. There's Hashem. They should know and believe. I'm not going to explain this at the moment. This is the thing for itself. The idea of knowing and believing means to say knowing means internalizing an idea to become vivid and real. And belief is something that you depend on even if you can't internalize or you can't get the idea. But you believe. In other words, belief by definition means totally depending on something as it was fact. Actually, and that's your comfort zone. That's what people believe in. We all believe in multitudes. We discussed this many times. We all believe in multitudes of things to preserve our comfort zone. You definitely believe that the cook didn't decide to put arsenic in your food supper. Okay. And you can believe a lot of things. You don't know. I'm not going there. I've done this in the past. I don't want to do it now. Basically, we've been programmed to believe. Sounds like Hotel California. We've been programmed to believe. We are programmed basically to accept commonly perceptive images without even bothering to check the statistics or anything at all. We just do it, because if we wouldn't do it, we couldn't proceed in life. You'd constantly have to reinvent the wheel. And, then you would your name would be Flintstone. You'd be living in a cave running around with a club and pulling your wife by her hair, whatever you'd be doing. There's no way that you would get anywhere. The fact of it is we believe it's actually part of the process of creation. We've been programmed to believe. We are. That's a truth. Now, what do we believe in and why? It's a different topic. I will not deal with it here. I dealt with it in the past, I think last year. If it was here or another institution, one of the two other institutions I teach in. But whatever, not now. But it's very clear that we've been programmed to believe. Look, and we're not developed CC. I mean, not in a God. You believe in a million things. The reason you trust chazakas is because of because of that belief. What's a chazaka? My mom spoke to me a minute ago. She's probably still alive. You don't call up every 2 minutes. Why? Why are you complacent? Maybe the roof fell down on your house in Boca. How would you know? Okay? I told you, I've long given up on trusting Israeli contractors. When this house, man, has no insulation in it. You know what that is? It's like freaking freezing here if there's no electricity. And in the summer, it's a tanur. Even building a whole campus of houses with no insulation is unheard of. And they just have cinder block here. There's not even decent insulation block. This is like a barn, okay? I'm just saying reality. I have no reason to think that the ceiling won't fall down. I have no reason. I totally don't trust it when I don't want to go into the deficiencies. This ceiling, the rain comes in all different places. So how do I know that this ceiling won't fall down? Like you were in yeshiva, was it last year when part of the ceiling suddenly fell down? Okay. How often did it happen in normal places? Okay. You know what I mean? This is the way it works. You know, they cut budgets, they build in a certain way. You know what it looks like? You feel it afterwards when it goes into your shirt. Okay. So God knows what they give you for food, okay? You know, I don't want to talk about it. You believe it. You believe. You trust. You're doing well. You know, if you do statistics on that, thank God they don't have elevators here, believe me. I wouldn't use them, okay? All right, they say, what are we talking about? We all believe, we blindly accept it. I'm not walking around neurotic. I'm sleeping. I couldn't care less. It falls down. You know what I mean? I have other reasons why I'm comfortable. You know what I mean? But basically, what are you talking about? We are programmed, because I want to preserve my comfort zone, I enjoy this place, so I'm going to believe that it works. We all believe that which preserves our comfort zones. You figure out your comfort zone, that's what you will believe anything that will preserve that comfort zone. For some people, it's a God. For some people, I don't want to do this too much now because I'm going to sound like an anthropologist. It's, there are multiple reasons to believe in things. You believe in democracy. Are you crazy? It's the most unnatural way of doing anything. It actually doesn't work in most places. Figure it out. Oh, you believe in tov lamut ba'ad artzenu. Ken, mishu acher. No, ani. I mean, we believe people died for a flag. Died for the glory of the kingdom. You know what I mean? Die for Louis. Let Louis die. No, him and the Dauphine, they taking care of themselves. I have to die for the Dauphines. You know, no, we create. We believe certain things that we create because that helps us exist as a society. It galvanizes groups by creating mythological values. Galvanizes groups. If we want the foragers to become farmers or military, whatever defends, they have to have some kind of an idea that they all believe in. And therefore, they will all work together in tandem. If not, everybody will decide what he wants to do. Why should I listen to that dumb sergeant? The Tovata Medina. Machbatli. Why do you suddenly decide the Medina is something? So we as religious Jews are very beautiful. We have this whole theological idea behind it. Take away the theological idea, it's nothing more than a socially accepted myth, which society puts together in order to function in a certain way. And no one even bothers thinking about even that, believe me. This is showing good. This is already, at least now I'm thinking what it is. Well, we just believe in it. Why you didn't even bother asking? Do you notice belief? You're so entrenched with it, you don't even bother researching it. That's the honest truth. And I'm not talking about religion. We believe in certain values. Why do you think that's important? Don't kill people. Why not? Well, you can tell me because you kill him, he'll kill you. Okay, that's an insurance policy, so I'll take my risk. No, you're talking about a value. It's inherent value. Not inherent in me, don't see it. Where's it from? They call this natural morals. You know what natural morals are? Adam ayer per Adam yivaled. Those are the natural morals. Self-centered. That's natural morals, okay? There are normal morals which should become your nature through nurture Oh yes, that's what the Rambam writes in Mishmei Prakim. There are multitudes of mitzvah, of values, which must become your normal self, not just obligations, but become your perception of reality. I think Rashiva spoke about it on Shalosh Shudas. He told me he was going to speak about that if you were there. It's a big if. Well, if you weren't, you missed a good one. Okay, excuse me, not Rashiva, the Nasi, whatever he's called today. But this Shabbos was like Jurassic Park Shabbos. I told you they took the dinosaurs out and they let them roam. Okay, so whoever wasn't here missed one. Okay, but reality is that if you say a Jurassic Shabbos, we've gone back in ages. Spielberg should have been here and filmed it. Okay, but the truth of the matter is, you think about it, yes, but where do these morals come from? You think there's an inherent moral? There's no such thing. Man is a self-centered jerk and a pleasure-seeking animal. And self-preservation is the only thing we know which has been programmed. Idea of working with other people for the sake of other people is a nurtured value, which is very important. And people either choose to do it because of mythological realities, because that serves them in one way or the other, and ultimately they're conditioned and don't think, or through revelation from Sinai, hallelujah, and that's what I call a truth of God. Okay? Outside of that, what's inherent? What's a natural musar TV? I don't know what the word means. I have yet to meet anybody which is mitzvah TV to musari. Children are the most natural thing you can think of. They're the most self-centered brats you can think about. They will make noise until they get their food, and if their nappy is wet, they will drive you crazy until you change it. And we have been conditioned to actually love these little brats, okay, and to nurture them, because if we wouldn't be conditioned that, we'd kill them. It's very simple. We actually think these little red animals that come out of the lady's womb, which look ugly as E.T., okay, isn't it beautiful? Does it look like you? I hope not. You know what I mean? Like, I look like that? No. This red thing that came out like this, isn't it beautiful? No, it isn't. So I actually was terrible. I told my wife, no, thing's ugly. How can you say that? It's the truth. My perceptions of aesthetics don't change because I have some offspring. I have no reason to say this is beautiful. Does it make me feel good? Yes. My self-centered self makes me feel very good when I see this product. Very nice. Okay? But I don't think it's beautiful. Did you ever see these kids when they're mamish born, like a day, the first, second day, adumim keile, and they're all fakvetch, they look like 100 years old, packed down into a little pekala over there, 300 grams. Are you kidding? It's like, I don't know what to say, it must be some sci-fi movie. Okay, this is called a beautiful child. Yeah, they're beautiful, my foot. Once again, what do? We're conditioned. It's interesting enough, yes, we are conditioned to have these emotions, because if not, you'd probably throttle them. There are animals which eat their children. There are animals which devour their children. Okay? They cull them. Okay, this one's healthy, good. The other one, he's a steak. It happens. It's in the world, in the natural world, that's there, okay? So don't tell me about natural morals. There's no natural moral. There are morals which should become your nature through nurture. When the Rambam describes Musar TV and Rav Kook elaborated, it doesn't mean that it is inherent in the persona. It's supposed to become inherent in the persona. That's what it means. Through conditioning, through studying. It's not enough just to do it or to oblige by it. You've got to identify with it. That's called normal people. Okay? That is a truth. There's no question about it. But basically taking that away, when we talk about the man as himself, are you kidding? So let's understand, we talk about you have to know and believe. When I say believing in God, yes, belief means accepted as a given to the extent that you put your life on it, and that becomes your comfort zone. So when God says believe in God, it means you should identify your comfort zone. Without believing in Him, you'd be missing. And not just believe out of a coercion. Belief, by definition, is something which is normal, which is natural. So the mitzvah of emunah, where there is no yediyah, is your comfort zone should be as such that of course you're going to want to believe. It's not just, I got to force you to believe. No. The commandment is educate yourself to become a believing person in God, equals that your comfort zone will demand that. That's a heavy commandment, by the way. Okay, the Rambam doesn't mention it. It's a Ramban. Okay, the Ramban mentions this idea of Zayd Lahamin. The Rambam doesn't mention it. Your souls, except your souls, but rather translations which were inaccurate in Sefer HaMitzvahs, which write Lahamin. But anybody, after reading Reb Chaim Heller's Sefer HaMitzvahs and after it's put together again in Frankel, know that the original translation of the word there does not mean to believe, but means to make it vivid, equals Leida. If you want to know, Ayin Sefer HaMitzvahs, Maduras Frankel, and or Reb Chaim Heller's Rachad, he was the first one to really translate it accurately, and that's what it is. I don't want to say the word in Arabic, I can't pronounce it correctly. But that's what it means. It doesn't mean to believe in the simplest way. It means the mitzvah, that according to Rambam, is not to believe, but to actually to internalize. Okay, the Ramban adds, Leida ulahamin, because the Ramban is very clearly saying, because there are places which you can't get to that vividness at all, because you don't have enough bina to get the das. To make something vivid, you have to have comprehension. And there's definitely things we don't comprehend or don't have the capability of comprehending. Not everybody has the capability of comprehending. Not everybody has done the labor. So, but there's another mitzvah of lahamin. But faith doesn't mean just means you're going to, it says I'm church to scream, believe. No. If believe means to say, total dependency on this as a fact, for this preserves my comfort zone, which is actually what belief is, that the commandment is to identify with this to the extent that you couldn't, I can't live if living is without you. It's as simple as that, and that's the idea of belief. So it's a really interesting, quite an intense mitzvah, okay? Is that clear? Let's go further in Ramban. Sheyedu v'yaminu ki yesh Hashem, v'hu Elokim lahem, he is their Lord. Elohim is miloshen srora v'rabanus, boss. He's their governor. Klomar, now what does Hashem mean? So he describes what you have to know, and it's very important. Because this is actually what you're supposed to know. This is the mitzvah. And if you haven't think of this consciously, you say, oh, there's God. No, what it is, I don't know. You were not making the mitzvah of either Yediyah or Emunah. Don't want to sound harsh, but it is harsh. You can't make, just because you'll feel something, it's irrelevant. How could that be? It can. You know what I mean? How could it be? You kidding? I missed Krishma by 30 seconds. You missed it. Sorry. Mvatla mitzvah say. What are you going to do? 30 seconds? Yes. 1 second? Yes. That's the way it is. Your feelings are totally irrelevant. Your feelings at the best don't define theology. At the best they can do is facilitate your connection to theology. Yeah, you feel good about something, you'll do it. You feel bad about something, you won't do it. So feel bad about Averis, feel good about mitzvahs. Okay, that's important. But they will not create anything. You feel, I can't connect to this, so don't connect to, I don't know what, to your cousin on the telephone, for all I care. Okay, Mendel Kashul, your subjective feelings about something are totally irrelevant to the theological truth. And therefore, whether you feel or don't feel, I hope you feel your toes, but it's totally irrelevant. The truth lies without you. The truth will exist before you, and truth will exist after you. The truth lies as a revelation of God, and totally meaningless whether you can understand, comprehend, or feel comfortable with. So he says, so what does it mean when I say, he is Yudke, Shema Yisrael, Hashem, okay, what are you supposed to think about? So he says what he's supposed to think about. Hoveh, source of all reality, primary existent, that's, you want to be very specific. Hoveh, primary existent. Kadmon, source of all, and he's existent, an absolute existent, equals, he's not coming from anywhere. He's not the effect of a cause. He is that which always was. Do you think about this when you say Shema? You're supposed to. So, Hoveh Kadmon, primary existent and absolute existent. Mi'ito haya hakol b'chefetz v'yacholet. All is an expression, it comes from him due to his will and due to his capabilities. That's what Yud Kei Vav Kei means. Yud Kei Vav Kei means Hoveh Kadmon mi'ito hakol b'chefetz v'yacholet. That's the Ramban. V'hu Elohim lahem, and he's their boss. Governor. What does that mean? Shechayavim la'avod oto. Shema Yisrael, Yud Kei Vav Kei means Hoveh Kadmon, Shakol Mi'ito B'chev Zichot. Elokeinu means he is my governor, V'chayavim la'avdoi. That's what this kavanah means. V'amar asher teticha me'at Mitzrayim. What does that mean? Ki hotzaatam misham toreh ala mitziyut v'ala chayfetz. The fact that God took us out of Egypt, that proves that A, that God exists. B, that he wills certain things. Ki b'di'ah u'b'shgacha mimenu yatzanu. Because only because God knew and cared about this that he took us out of Egypt. So this is teaching me Hoveh. Go further. V'gam toreh lachidush. It also shows that he is kadmon and he created the world. The world is not something which always was. How do we know that? Ki im kadmut olam. If we accept that the world always was and was not created by X, lo yishtaneh davar mitivo. There's no reason for it that anybody can change it. Just like no one thinks someone can change God. If the world always was, they can't change the world. Rambam writes this in Nevuchim. Those who believe in the pure eternity of the world that always was are makrish, obviously, in nisim. So he says, v'toreh layicholet. It also shows that he can do vayicholet toreh layichud. If God can do anything, which means he's only one, he doesn't have a board to deal with. Because anybody who had to deal with a board understands en yicholet, which is board. Okay, you just can't get things done. Okay, imagine if God had to have a board, makas borod. Well, the Department of Water and the Department of Fire, they don't like each other. I need you guys to work together to get borod for ice and fire. No, he did it. That means he doesn't have a board. It's a pasuk in Chumash. How do we know? What did the Kosh Baruch Hu do when he said borod? She'en kamayni b'chol haaretz. There's no one like me. I don't have a board. Look at the Barbano on the spot. And this is what this Ramban says. He says, "Vayicholet toreh layichud," that he's only one. Kemo she'amar b'avur tidah ki ein kamoni b'chol haaretz. V'zeh tam asher tziticha ki eim hayodim ve'edim b'chol eila. One more piece. V'tam bebeis havadim she'ayu omdim b'mitzrayim bebeis havadim shvuyim lefaro. They were captives. V'amar lem zeh she'em chayavim sheyeh Hashem hagadol ha'nich v'haner zeh lem le'elohim sheyavdu ki hu pada otam me'avdus mitzrayim. This is interesting. In other words, the idea that you have to serve God is not because that's the way it is. So there's something which works on your morals or on your sense of a course or type. I'm the one that took you out, you owe me. It's an interesting approach to religion, but that's how the Ramban explains the pshat in the pasuk. That's why you have to listen to me. In other words, I formed you. Without me, you still be there. So now we have an allegiance. Very interesting approach. It's very modern. For me, it's not that comfortable even to say it. But that's what the Ramban writes. We're going to see the words again, please. Amar lehem shem chayavim sheyeh Hashem hagadol v'hanichmad v'hanora zeh lehem le'elohim sheyavduhu. Why? Ki hu pada otam me'avdut Mitzrayim. Kitam avadai heim asher hotzeti otam me'eretz Mitzrayim. One has to try to understand that. I wish I had the time. I'm not going to, but I think it doesn't just mean a course of type. Believe me. It doesn't mean you owe me. Believe me. That won't work too well a few hundred years later because people's memory is not the greatest. It must be something much deeper than that because it's not as if we're still living the trauma of Egypt at the moment that we're going to do it. There has to be more to this and it has to be explained. I'm not going to do it now, but this is Aleph Beis of Kriya Shema, by the way. He continues and says, "V'ramasti od lamala tam shnei hashemot hakedoshim, v'zeh mitzvah." This mitzvah of what? V'anochi havaya elokecha asher tzricha me'eretz Mitzrayim tikara b'divrei rabboteinu kabbalat malchut shamayim. That's your mitzvah Kriya Shema. Kabbalat malchut shamayim. It's more in brachas. Ki hamilot ha'ela asher izkarti ein b'melech keneged ha'am. וכן אמרו במחילת לא אלוהים אחרים על פניי למען נאמר לפי שאמר נחווה אלוקיך משה למלך שנכנס למדינה אמרו לו עבודיו גזור עלינו גזירות אמר להם לאו כשתקבלו מלכותי אגזור עליכם גזירות שאם מלכותי אינכם מקבלים גזירותי איך אתם מקיימים. Don't do it. First of all, accept me as your sovereign. You accept the Allah, you accept God. Now, once you accept God, you will do his mitzvahs. Just doing mitzvahs without accepting Malchus Shemaim, that's garnished. So he says, "Kishtgablu malchuti egzor lechem gzerot, she'im malchuti enchem mekablim gzerotai ech tem mekayimim, kach amar makom Yisrael, anochi havai lekech lo yeh lecha. Anu shekibaltem malchusi alechem b'Mitzrayim, amru lo, hein, כשקיבלתם אחוזי, קבלו גזירותיי. כלומר, אחר שאתם מקבלים עליכם ומודים שאני אהביה ואני אלוקיכם מארץ מצרים, קבלו כל מצוותיי. Period. So the kama yisayis we learned here. This is the mitzvah of Kriyat Shema. Kabbalah's Ol Malchus Shemayim, the Gemara Brachas of the mitzvah of Kriyat Shema, is basically to remember that Havaya Shu Kadmoin Bal Yecholis, okay, v'halkom me'iter b'chefetz v'yecholis, hu Elokeinu, okay, which means to say he's my governor and he's my melech. This you have to remember. So you have to know what God is. The word God is not enough. Okay, you have to remember this Ramban. Okay, this is one mitzvah. Then he goes further. That's the first mitzvah, and Layurach has the second mitzvah. Let's see what he does further. Flip the page for a moment. I'm going to skip a bit to this late. Go on page 2 on the right column. Let's go down 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph. Hine, he's here, but dibur hasheni tchila shelo nekabel lanu adon mikol elohim zulotei Hashem. We should not accept other sovereigns. In other words, we don't. Although God may be working with different tools, don't accept them as sovereigns. Look at them as a chisel and a hammer, and not as entities that you should honor. Okay. Granted that the sun is a tool of God, hypothetically, and ancient man thought it was a sar and whatever it be. Ayin Rama Yuchas of Ezer Perik Av that he describes. Yes, these are malachim, sorim, and God works with them. And people think you can pray to a malach. They even sing songs like these things, okay? The Ramban writes, this is Avodah Zarah. It's not from the Ramban and the Drush and Rosh Hashanah. This is Prosta Avodah Zarah, to sing Machnise Rachmi. He writes before the beauty of Machnise Rachmi is Avodah Zarah. Okay, he writes it befurish. So if you don't mind being something which according to Ramban is Avodah Zarah on Rosh Hashanah, gesundheit. Yechoishish for Shema Yara Abal. This is a suffix Avodah Zarah. Deraises lechumras. How can you possibly sing that thing? It's beyond me. I don't know because the music is nice. I suggest you read Handel's Messiah. The music's much nicer. If you know the lyrics, man, you shouldn't be singing it. It's really about JC, the Paschal Lamb and all that. I hope you don't sing that on Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so somehow you sing Machnise Rachmi. So ich Avodah Zarah. What's enough Kemina? It's a machlek. It's the Ramban and Bala Shlama. 2 days in Rishonim. Okay. I don't have an achroa. I know 2 days in Rishonim. That's a heavy thing to think about. But what can you do? Anyway, so what does it say? So God says, first of all, there's these kaiches, but what's the problem of Avodah Zarah? You think that these also have certain kaiches, like you pray to them, you ask them to do things. So don't do that. Don't honor them. Don't give them. They're nothing more than my hammer, my chisel, and my screwdriver. There's no yesh there. Do not give them any kavod. You give kavod only to me. Your relationship is a direct relationship with me. Nothing in the middle. Pashit, that's number 2. Let's go a little further. I'm just going to do fast. Let's go to the following go to the following column. 3rd line. Ki anochi avai elokecha levadi, ve'en ra'ui sheteshef imi acherim, ve'anochi el takif sheyesh le'el yadi, ve'kano she'ekeneh ba'noten k'vodi la'achev t'loti l'psidim. That's what it says. I will burn you. God says, listen, I want this, and I'm very adamant about it. So what do we know this one? Anochi le'ircha is purely driving in. Your relationship is only with this God that we describe. I'm going to just flip things, so just make it fast. Go to the 3rd page. Over here, he really elaborates on Avodah Zarah. Once again, this is something I would love to have the time to do. Maybe after I finish this whole thing, I'll go back to read it, because it's very important to understand. Ramban describes development of Avodah Zarah, the dibinim of Avodah Zarah. There's the Rambam that once thought Barabim, but this is the Ramban, which has his own take on things. It should be seen. Then on Shabbos, what does he write? Acher shetziva shena'amin b'shem ha'miyuchad yizborach shu ha'nimtza, hu ha'boreh, hu ha'mevin, hu ha'yachol, v'sheniyached emunah b'chol eila v'akavod lo levado, which is a noich v'le'yocha, tziva shedechabed zecher shmo, v'tziva zecher shmoi, which is like he sees Hashem Shov. He says, tziva shenase ba simon v'zikaron tamid lo odia shu bara hakol. You have to chop what this means. The Ramban is teaching you something. To be Makai, the tachlis of Shabbos is it's a siman to remember that what? That he's a hoive, kadmain mimenu hakol b'chefetz v'yachaylish, and this is what the world is. So the whole mitzvah of Shabbos is to make a zecher, to constantly, once a week, set aside and contemplate, Anochi Havai Elokecha Yochim Acherim. That's what he writes. Zichrein Tamid Lo Yidiyah Shu Bara HaKol, Vos Men Hoive Kadmon, Mimenu HaKol B'chefetz V'yachaylish. V'hi mitzvah HaShabbos, Shi Zecher L'Maisa Bereshis. Anybody who opens up Yecheskel Perek Chof sees how these things are coupled together, whether Yecheskel describes constantly how the Jews that were not in Mitzrayim were not willing to walk away from an Avodah Zorah, and that's why they didn't want to keep Shabbos. And even during the Midbar, when you read last week about the people going out to collect the man on Shabbos, they didn't believe in God. So God gave the man. But they didn't want to believe, Shehu Hoive Kadmon Mimenu HaKol B'chefetz V'yachaylish. And that's why they couldn't keep Shabbos. For them, Shabbos is nothing more than a siman of a zikoron of Hoive HaKol, Hoive Kadmon B'chefetz V'yachaylish, Mimenu HaKol B'chefetz V'yachaylish, that they didn't want to bite into. Therefore, they didn't want to do the Shabbos thing. They saw Shabbos as nothing more than an expression of this ideology. And if they can't subscribe to it totally, I'm not going to do the Shabbos. And the Yecheskel describes in Perek Chav Bar Chaval through history in the 40 years in the desert, they constantly didn't want to keep Shabbos. It's frightening. Even after Matan Torah. And weiter, you should read the Perek there. Even the door which was supposed to come into Eretz Yisrael, we're talking about the door after the 40 years. They had a hard time with Shabbos. Now, this is not following the Psukim, but it's following the Psukim in Yecheskel, which describes that. I think that's the best medrash possible. If you read carefully, you will see the correlation. But they didn't want to walk away from the Avodah Zorah of Mitzrayim, and they didn't want to keep my Shabbos. That's a pasuk which repeats itself maybe like 6 times in that period. Whether originally when Aaron came to talk to them before Moshe came, afterwards, before Matan Torah, after Matan Torah, by the Meraglim, by the end of the Arbaim Shana, constantly they didn't want to walk away from the Avodah Zorah, Gilulei Mitzrayim, and they didn't want to keep the Shabbos. I say this for a reason, that the Shemir Shabbos Kedin, when we talk about Zochas Shabbos L'Kacher, means to sanctify it. What does it mean? To see it as sanctify means to make it unique. Okay, what's it? Uniqueness, the chayra, the key in mitzvah of Shabbos is to chap that this is a day which is, at least in your mind, you must think this is the Eid HaMeir, and what on Kadmus Elokim, because Hoive Kadmain, Shemenu HaKol B'chefetz V'yachaylish. That's what Shabbos is supposed to be, and that's why we know that the Chil Shabbos is a Mumar L'Kol Torah Kula, because it's an Akira of the Das. If you don't believe this, then this is what Shabbos is. So that's we understand. That's Shabbos. I'm going to skip now because I want to get to a point. So far we have the 3 dibros. Let's go further. If you look carefully in the dibros, what do we have? Now, if you go in the Seder, you get what you have here so far. You have here Anochi Yirlecha. You had Leisisa Shem Hashav, which obviously is the idea of the kavod of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is all talking about God and internalizing the mitzvahs of God. It's very honorable, Leisisa Shem Hashav, and Shabbos. Anochi Yirlecha, Leisisa Shav, and Shabbos. Beautiful. Next. The next part is Kabbalas Avicha V'Simecha. What's that? Dr. Ramban. In page 4, left column, last 2 paragraphs. Kabbalas Avicha hine hishlim komo she'anu chayivim b'divrei haboreh ba'atzmo b'chvodo. So basically, until now, all the mitzvahs was around internalizing mitzias haboreh, his atzmius and his kavod. That's what it is. Kabbalas al-malchus shemayim in different fashions. Now let's talk about people. First he talked about relationship to a father, for the father is also a primary source, just as God was a mishtatef in your Yitzira. Ki Hashem Avinu Harishon, God is our first father. Hamolid Avinu Acharon, and He's the one which created this father, which is ours. So there's a Moilid Arishon, which is the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and your father is your Moilid Achron. V'lechein Amru b'Mishnah Torah kasher tzivisicha b'chvoidi kein anochi mitzavcha b'chvoid ha'mishtatef imi b'tziratcha. So the klal is, as we know, the Gemara says, Hukish kvoidem l'kvoidem ha'malkaim. So the Ramban weiter. ולא פירש שכתוב הכבוד, שהוא נלמד מהכבוד שנאמר למעלה באב הראשון, שיודע בו שהוא אביו. Just like with the covenant of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he has to recognize what God is, not to be koifer in what he is. Just as God is hayvik kad mechevs v'yichelis, you have to remember, he is my father, he is my source. Live with that feeling. You have the conscious awareness, Daddy equals my primary source. So he writes here. He says, lo yichpa b'yleim al odom achar shu aviv. So that then if you have to recognize this is your father. And anoichi avai elokecha, anoichi avicha, v'lo yavdenu kiben liYerushasai, o liyan achesh yitzapeh mimenu. He shouldn't serve him simply because I'm going to get something out of him. No, because avai elokecha, because I'm your primary source. That's why you're supposed to honor him. Your relationship with your father is because he's your primary source. V'lo yisah shem aviv, v'yish b'chaya aviv l'shav v'l'sheker, the same halacha. You don't use your father's name in vain, stamazoi. You don't even call your father's name out in his name, especially if he has a unique name, a special name. You're not even allowed to say it shlei b'fanav. So, whole sif and Shulchan Aruch, what you're supposed to do. Be very careful with the name of your dad, which is peril lo'sis Hashem Hashav. V'yikansu b'chlal ha'kavod dvarim acherin ki b'chol kvoidai nistivenu u'furashim divrei Rabbeinu. So what do we know that? Is also, what is it for real? It's also there to internalize the idea that there's a primary source. We see from Avinu Ha'achron, we go back to Avinu Harishon. So actually, what is it? It's also, although we're now talking b'tachtainim, but we're actually, as I said, use the Ramban's lashon for Tosik Dibri Yedaber b'tachtainim v'yirmos le'el yoinim. Kabers avicha v'simecha is supposed to put into your mind the idea of anoichi avai elokecha hayvik kadmon b'kol b'chefetz v'yichelis. He then continues and says further, flip the page in page 5, source Yud Gimel. It says le'shir tzach. Le'sinayf, so the Ramban, le'sigdev, Amar, hinetzi v'sicha, l'hodo shani aboret hakol, b'leiv u'b'maisa, v'lechabed avot, b'avur she'em mishtatfim b'yitzir, because they're my partners, they're a moiled arishan, a moiled achran, im kain, because you accept this idea that everything comes from God, and everything is the yitzir of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so you have to be mechabed that too. You're mechabed the yitzir of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Im kain, he shomer bed tachbol maaseh yadi. Don't damage what I created. The king made a piece of art, you're going to go damage it? How can you kill somebody? It's maaseh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So he's not talking about the uniqueness of man, the shama, and all the 5 words you would think of. He's talking about shirtza, because this is maaseh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. God gave it meaning and purpose. By killing it, you're saying you decide that the purpose is meaningful to you. So he says, I created this Homo sapien in order to be made in all the aforementioned Dibrais. Why? Because here, a vehicle of covered Shemayim, you're just destroying a vehicle of covered Shemayim. And I just want you to know there's an instinct, Chuvas Beis Ephraim, it's based on the Taishas and Makos. The Gemara says that a Horug is an 8 puzzle. And the Gemara says a Nirva is an 8 puzzle. The Gemara, Daf Hey. What's the psul? So by Horug, it says because Taishas writes because he's a Baldin. By Nirva, it says because he's a Soiner. And doesn't say because he's a Baldin. What's Muchach Mikan? That by Horug, you're chayiv misha, not because you killed a person, you killed this person. By Nirva, you're not chayiv because you reveya this person, because you reveya a person. Vashteda, that by shirtzach is don't shirtzach yankel, don't shirtzach barrel, there's separately shirtzach on each one. Mashenga, by reveya, it doesn't matter. That's not the issue. Ritzich is custom tailored. What's the Agdora? The Agdora is based on this Ramban. Because what's the Aveira of Leishirtzach? Because he was never Lechvaidi, so Mamela, how can he be Mizalz in my covered? Every person has different covered. There's not one person which is going to be Megalik Kvod Shemayim like the other one. If that's the case, they wouldn't be needed in history. Every person has different covered Shemayim. So Mamela, Al-Kochel, Leishirtzach is custom tailored to the human being, this specific human being, because this specific being, his life will be a totally different Gilui of covered Shemayim than anyone else before him or after him. That's the Shirish comes from this Ramban. So the Ramban, how can you shimar pen techbo ma'asi yodi v'tishbuch dam ha'adam she'barasi l'chvaydi u'lahoydis li b'chol eila. That's number one. Then le'sinaf eishes v'echa. Why? Ki tachboil inyan kavod ha'avos lichbar be'emes u'lahoydis b'sheker ki lo yedu es aviem v'yitnum kvoidam la'acher. What does that mean? This is the Ramban L'Shitase, where the Ramban writes that the Iker Yishayrish Isser of Eishes Ish is a pasuk. Well, Eishes Hamidcha Lo Titen Shchoftecha Lazora. The halacha is the bia which is aser, it has to be a bia haroy lazriya. It has to be a ma'aser bia which hypothetically was roy that you should also be able to be bazriya. There should be sperm coming out. Not that it came out. But it has to be with Aver Kosher. There should be Roy Lazriya. Hamashamish be'Aver Meis, there's no Chiyav Misa. Okay, Zot Ramban, Kishar Mitzvah is that if people would just freely have relationships with the people, then no one would know who his father was. And genealogy would be finished. And then we would lose a major tool of source awareness. And since the whole idea of Kibbut Ava'im is to generate source awareness, the if hypothetically everybody would be living with everybody, no one would know their source. Ad Kedei Kach, I once said in Shir, this is Pshat Rabbeinu Tam Shita in Ksubis, Rabbeinu said that if a guy was Baal, a Jewish lady, an Eishes Ish, and after he was Mizgayer, she's not usher on him. You're usher on the Bayel. Soit is usher on the Bayel and usher on the Baal. No, she's not usher either on the Bayel or on the Baal. Why? Because the pasuk says that Zirma Susim Zirmasam. What does that mean? So they're like dogs? I don't understand. Zaymer Moichel. What does it mean? No, read the pasuk. The pasuk is talking about Mitzrayim. The pasuk is saying that they are so free in their sexual life that they copulate like horses. They, wherever it happens, they go. It's a nice way of saying, the Gemara says, Akum en lo yichus. Why? Because the pasuk says, Gemara Yavamis, Zir masusim, zir masa. I know that people don't know these Gemaras, therefore they fetish that taishas in a weird way, but thank God you didn't link Shubas, I hope. So by the time you get there, now you know what it means. It means to say, a bias akum equals, it's like Mishamish Be'ever Mace. It's not, it has no genealogical reality. They're like biological parents, not genealogical parents. There's no musik of Abba, there's no idea of father, son, etc. Those are the people which don't mind aborting a fetus or drowning a kid in the Nile. Because the child is nothing more than the price you paid for a few moments of pleasure, and then you say, oops. But if you understand, not that way. We live in a sense of genealogies. We're constantly creating another chain which goes back to its source. That's Kabbalah Savicha V'Simecha, and that's the Isser of Eishes Ish. So, Mela, that's not the Isser cited. That's the Shchaftecha L'Zora. Now, does that mean you have to have Mazriya? No, it's not Mi'akev. There's an Isser B'Yeh even without it, even Haroah. But the getter of the mitzvah is what kind of bia? Haroah is also a bia, which if it would be finalized with the Zriya, it would be you get a father from another son, a child from another father, and that messes up the family. It's a Ramban. So this is what this Ramban says over here, b'mefurish. He says the same thing here. You will damage the idea of kibbud av. Lichbar ba'emes. You will deny the truth of who the father is, and you will actually agree in things with someone who isn't your father. You'll call him dad. What's that? Ki lo yedu saviem. They really know their father. V'yitnu kvodam la'acher. Kasher yasu ovda v'dezor. This is what even if they do. Also, they don't recognize the primary father. Omrim la'etz aviata v'lo yedu aviem shebaram mi'ayin. So the whole din of Isha Shisish is weiter an idea not to lose source awareness. All this goes back to Anoichi. Do you notice? So far, I have nothing which isn't a continuance of Anoichi. They're all into Anoichi. Weiter. Then we have the Yigdish Nefesh. What's the issue of kidnapping and selling your kid away? It's a horrendous thing to do, but why is that? What's that? Neseres Adibris like that? Like Signiv, Neseres Adibris means kidnapping somebody and selling him, right? If you don't know, learn Rashi. It doesn't mean don't steal money. That's way later, okay? Like Signiv, and the pasuk means kidnapping and selling. Okay, what's this doing here? So the Ramban explains. So the Ramban, it does the same thing. What does it do? It's very simple. You kidnap a child and take him away from his father and sell him, he will never know his father. And therefore you are taking away from a tool of source awareness. That kid ultimately won't know his father, and not knowing your father or attributing father to someone which isn't yours ultimately leads into fear of Anechi Avai Elokecha and Lo Yilim Acherim. This is the Ramban. So if I look at everything here, my friends, literally, everything is Anechi Hashem Elokecha except for one thing. That got nothing to do with it. Leisachmoid means wanting and to pressuring the guy to give it to me. No, it means that's something totally different. That's another halacha. So if that's the case, I now understand. Let's go a little further in that Ramban. Look at the Ramban again on page 5. Pasuk Yud Gimel, the end of the first paragraph. He says, "V'chein seder hamitzvot b'chomron v'onshon kachu achei avodah zarah shvichas dam achei gil harayis achar hizer ganevus nefesh ve'eder sheker v'gezel umi shelo yachmod lo yazik nolam lechavero." This he goes the same lashon that he has in Mishpatim. Hinei hishlim kol ma she'adam chayav b'shul chavero. Here he doesn't attribute leisachmoid to God. Interesting. Here he says something. This is leisachmoid. If you'll be chaymed, then you will be mezalzel. How can be mazik something which doesn't belong to you? If you will be mazik something, kill somebody. But stealing, it doesn't say anyway has to do with the Hashem Elokecha. Stealing money, damaging money, state doesn't do with the Hashem Elokecha. Killing somebody is called you're being mezalzel and covered shemayim of somebody. Who state the chavala? Nisht. The Torah says all the other halachas nezikin, they have nothing to do with the Hashem Elokecha. There's something else. And that's the Seder Advor. If you look carefully, all the dibros until Leisachmoid are basically different variants of Anoich Hashem Elokecha and Liyuchim Echerim. The only one which stands on its own is Leisachmoid. And Leisachmoid is the Shorish of Mishpatim. Now let's try to understand the importance of those Mishpatim, because now we understand the Seder of the Ramban. When the Ramban said in the very beginning, he made an order, he said that in Mafter of Yisrael, we said, Anoichi v'yelecha, and then we jumped out to Leisachmoid, and afterwards we elaborate also on Leisirtzach, etc. What does that mean? Anoichi v'yelecha are the two primaries, which everything else is nothing more than an extension of them. Leisachmoid is the third primary. Then afterwards, the things we elaborate further are nothing more than elaborations on the extensions of the primary. So the order of the parasha makes tons of sense, and that's your Ramban. It's very simple. That's the Ramban. The Ramban, according to the Ramban, to Miyasha's Ramban with the Ramban, that's a davar pashut. So now we've become halachas of what the values are behind these mitzvos. But the truth is, now we have to understand one thing. Good. So here in Mishpatim, he elaborated how it is so important. The world depends on Mishpatim. What is this idea of the Mishpatim uniquely? I can understand society depends on Mishpatim. Good. But the extent that he says that Kol HaTorah Kula Tluya B'Mishpat is a tzorachin. If you meant Mishpat of Avodah Zarah Nicha, but L'chaira, if we understand, we started with Leisachmoid, L'chaira, and there Leisachmoid is talking not Yonech Hashem Elokecha, not L'yilchem Acherim, but Mishpat Leisachmoid for itself, which is a value of its own, what you would call an Adam L'chaveiroi. Okay, respecting other people's properties. This seems to be a value that we have to understand what it is in the broad sense of theology. Okay, I'm just going to start something, and we'll continue this next week. So if you look carefully in page 5, Mishnah says in source Vav, Moshe kibbutz Torah b'Sinai, Masar liYeshua, Yeshua l'Skenim, Skenim l'Neviim, Neviim Masar l'Anshei Knesset Agdel Hema, Mishlesh Dvarim, have Masunim B'Din, V'amidatam Min Harbe, V'asu Siag V'Torah. Rabbeinu Yoiner writes, if you go down, I would say halfway down in that Rabbeinu Yoiner, where it says, V'atam al sha'amar, have Masunim B'Din. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13th lines from the bottom going up. So he says, what's that Masunim B'Din? Dafke B'Din. So he says something unbelievable. Kidei la'azir yoter la'adinim mishar hayros. Chayri should be Mosin, everything, also in Yerdea, also in Even Ezer, also in Arachayim. Why do you Dafke ever live? Masunim Dafke B'Din. Stam Din means Cheshem Mishpat. Ve'ela Mishpatim Belaz. Kidei la'azir yoter la'adinim mishar hayros. Why? Shem Iker Gadol B'Yedias Hashem. They are a primary factor in knowing God. What does that mean? So let's see what he says. Because what he's doing now, we're saying, at the end of the day, at the end they also go back to Anoichi. They are not extensions of the formula. They are the tools how you will get to know him. So that's what's happening with this Rabbeinu Yoiner. Before I explain it, that's what he's saying. Eina Chanami, the Ramban is right. Leisachmat stands on its own. It's not an expression of Anoichi Hashem Elokecha, the way he explained all the other dibros. But Afal Pekain, what's the uniqueness of Mishpatim? Mishpatim are an Ikar God Leidas Hashem. Do you want to believe, know God? Learn Bab Kama. You want to know God? Learn Gittin, Subis, Yivamis, Pchairis, Tzmur. No, that's not Mishpatim. You know, Cheshem Mishpat, yeah. Hoitz Lahachkim. Yasser b'milud v'nezikin. I'm not learning. So he says, what does this mean? Look at what he says, and then we'll try to figure it out maybe next week. L'haza yosher adinim yishar hayrosh, more than Yeridea, more than Even Ezer, more than Arachayim. Frightening. Shem ikar gadol b'yedias Hashem yizborach. Ukmo shamar Yirmiyahu hanavi, quote the pasuk in Yirmiyah Tes, haskel v'yada oti, wisen up and or become intelligent and know me, which means have a vivid awareness of me. How? Ki ani Hashem oiseh chesed u'mishpat tzedakah ba'aretz. For I am the God of chesed, mishpat, and tzedakah. You will know the God of chesed, mishpat, and tzedakah, then you will know me. That's what he says. How the Rabbeinu Yoiner explains the pasuk. You want to know God, know the God of Chesed, Mishpat, and Tzedakah, and then you know him. So it's interesting. The Rabbeinu Yoiner here does not talk about Chesed or about Tzedakah. For that, you'd have to look at the Mer Nevuchim, the last two Prakim in the 3rd volume, Ayin Shom V'Timtzu Nachas, where he explains the pasuk a bit more elaborate. Rabbeinu Yoiner is focusing on one component, which is Mishpat. To know God, you have to know his Mishpatim. HaMelech HaMishpat is not just describing that he does Mishpat, it's describing his Malchus. HaMelech HaMishpat, Doctor, this is the way to know Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's what he said. Askel v'yado oti ki ani avaya oiseh b'chesed mishpat tzedakah ba'aretz ki be'elech hafatzinu Hashem. Doctor Ramban, Doctor Rabbeinu Yoiner, eich yaskil adam ladat Hashem. How can one possibly really know God? V'hu davar nimna, it seems to be impossible. He's beyond man. Ach, bizot yadanu, but we do know. Lasot din u'mishpat. We don't know God, but we know how God interacts, so we will do what he tells us in din u'mishpat, because that expresses a deep sense of who he is. We'll see in a minute what that means. Ki havaya asat eile. V'zeh shene'emar dan din ani ve'evyon az tov. Halo hi adat oti ne'um Hashem. Do you want to know God? Act in chesed mishpat. He hasn't explained yet. He's just quoting psukim. Uksi b'makom acher, u'ma Hashem deresh mecha. Ki im asot mishpat v'avat chesed. Why? Ki adinim hem shoresh gadol laTorah, u'mehem nishtat ha'olam. All of Torah Its shirish is dinim. Why? Because it's dinim which somehow give us an understanding of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and ultimately that's what is a shirish of religion. Was hat Baba Kamet to talk with theology? And that's what he seems to be saying. Shirish Godling Yediyas Hashem, and Bimenu Hushtat Kala Olam, everything goes afterwards. But think when we become from Shalom Brachas, Brachas, Megillah, no, Baba Kamet, Baba Metzia, Baba Basra. That's how it has to start. Okay, that's what he writes. He says, "Uma Hashem Ki adinin em sherish gadol la'Torah u'mihem nishmat ha'olam k'mo shenema b'medrash ksiv l'fnei aseres adibros." Watch this. It says, "Shiftus ha'am b'chaleis, b'shaftu ha'am b'chaleis," beginning of Yisrael. U'ksiv la'achar aseres adibros ve'ela mishpatim. So the medrash says, why is it the aseres adibros are preceded with mishpat and followed by mishpat? Mashal matronisa is like a madam, like a queen, a noble lady. Sheisai leches baderech, she is in public. Avadel chim lefanea ulachra b'klei zayin. She's protected with her soldiers beforehand and afterwards. So the klei zayin of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in order to understand God, you have to understand the whole procession. There has to be klei zayin, the avodim of a klei zayin lefanea. It says mishpat, lacharel is mishpat. This is an enigma. What does this man mean? Now, this is Rabbeinu Yoina, you know, we're talking, right? The Mechutin of the Ramban, the Bar Plukta of the Rambam, the book burner of the Rambam, actually. Bismano, he was Gadol HaRishonim. The Ramban was scared of him. It's a beautiful tshuva. Ramban's son was married to Rabbeinu Yoina's, I remember his daughter or granddaughter, not to remember, I'm not sure. I just have to look back at my notes. Okay, so the guy had a kid. Now, the minig, until the Ashkenazim messed it up, the minig was that, you might find him today, that you call your children after your alive parents. That's the kibbutz of aim. Forget, there's bigger covered on the chaim than the mace, for goodness sakes. So the Sfardim called their children on their father's name. Like George Jr., Bush, same thing by the Jews. Okay? So he wanted to call him Moshe. So the Ramban's son wanted to call the kid Moshe. So Ramban writes, it's one of the Igros. He writes, no, very nice, you're right, kibbutz of aim, but since Rabbeinu Yoina was the Chassid Gadol, you should call him the name of Rabbeinu Yoina, which is, wow, as you walk away from Kama Minik, no, Rabbeinu Yoina, sorry. Call him Jonah. It's a very interesting letter, okay? Just to understand, it's beautiful to see them alive and feeling and talking. You afterwards, when you learn them, oh, yeah, I know you, okay? It's a different feeling. If you understand who they are, you read them differently. But you get older, you do that. So maybe what's the pshat in that? Dosh state, in this Rabbeinu Yoina, this is what I want to get to now. What is it in Mishpatim, which are called the unique Zayin Yeshel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is part of the process, and to know Iker God, to know God, is to know Chesed Mishpat, is to know Mishpatim. What do the Mishpatim give us? This is what I want to understand. What is the ideas that Hashem through Mishpatim uniquely that teaches things which we don't have in our Chaim, in Yeridea, and Even Ezra? Very nice, because next year they're learning Bo Basra here, Vaitim, and Ezekiel, Baruch Hashem. Okay, yeah, da wissen. So what does that do? What's the Iker Godlav? So we've learned common akudos. We learned on one hand that the Aser Sedibris, everything until Isachmoid is nothing more than an extension of Yediyas Hashem. Isachmoid is not an extension of Yediyas Hashem. You know what Isachmoid is? It's that which Shir Mishpatim, which is the tool to know who that God is. And that's the Seder of the Aser Sedibris, the Fidat Ramban. But the other one is obviously the Rabbeinu Yoina, and we'll have to deal with this next week.